Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Hannah Crepeau. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Certiport. We're happy to have everyone joining us for our sixth and final Certified Academy Business webinar of 2024. Feel free to drop into the chat. I'll open that up here in just a second. Let us know where you're joining us from or what questions you have so that we can make sure to address those with our panelists today. Everyone, of course, is on mute if you're here as an attendee. So we'll make sure to answer those questions either via text or during our Q&A portion during the discussion today. Let me go ahead and advance so we can recognize our amazing sponsor. This session is being sponsored by the Intuit Personal Finance Certification Program. The Intuit Personal Finance Certification is specifically tailored to empower individuals, particularly students, as they make pivotal financial decisions that will shape their futures. The certification validates candidates that they have required the foundational knowledge crucial to mastering the skill of personal finance. And of course, we're going into all things personal finance today. And we have some amazing guests here with us, Dan Teeter and Monty Butler representing our educators. And then we also have Jillian Moskovitz, who's here representing Intuit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we'll start with a quick panel discussion with Dan and Imani. So first, before we kick things off, let's do some introductions. So Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Dan Teeter, and I am the Director of Career and Technical Education in the Lake Stevens School District in Washington State. Kind of my background, I was an agricultural education teacher for a while in high schools, and then I moved into grad school where I started a PhD program, and then kind of moved into an administrative role as a STEM program supervisor for the state of Washington at the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. And now I am the director here in Lake Stevens, which is a wonderful fit. I'm having a great time.
Amazing, Dan. Thank you so much for being here. Imani, let's come to you next. If you want to give us a quick introduction into you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Imani Butler. I teach in Silicon Valley at high school where we have an entrepreneurship pathway. So I teach entrepreneurship, design, and also technology, full load this year. And, then we just embed personal finance into all of our classes as best we can. So yeah, glad to be here this
Amazing.
morning.
And Jillian, we'll have you give a quick introduction into you and the Intuit team when we come to your portion, if that works. Okay, beautiful. I want to dive right into our discussion and talk about personal finance and life skills, which is what we're here to discuss. So I wanted to get kind of a broad picture. Imani, in your opinion, what are some of the life skills that today's students that you work with, what are the skills that they're lacking?
Deep work and focus. Yeah. And of course, just like personal finance, like awareness.
Okay.
I think, as kids growing up in this age where there's a lot of distraction from social media, and content that kind of takes you away from things that could be practical and useful, like personal finance. There's a lot of it available on social media, but again, just kind of zeroing in on focusing on pragmatic things and then actually spending time to start, continue, and finish tasks, and
The
even
focus to
maybe,
kind of see something through from
yeah,
beginning to end.
maybe
Yeah.
just for 40
Yeah.
minutes, just building that muscle or that habit into the
Yeah.
day.
Well, and to your point, I think personal finance ties in very well with that because there is a learning curve, right? There's a lot of accumulation of knowledge that needs to happen, focus that needs to happen over a long period of time. So thank you for that insight. Dan, any thoughts from you building on that?
Oh, I got tons. Because, a lot of times I defend students a lot of the time and saying when we don't have skill sets for these students, I think as a human race, we've kind of developed it to a point where we're trying to make things easier, right? We're trying to make things more accessible. So kids don't necessarily have to have the same skills that we did. Kids, I would expect kids nowadays to have more advanced skills to jump into the world of technology that we live in. But the one thing I do know that kids are really lacking, and not all kids, but some kids, is interpersonal skills, right? The communication, the leadership, the motivation, empathy, patience. Some of these things are hard to come by. And I like to say common sense is not so common anymore at times. Really, it's about preparing students to enter into the workforce or whatever the next step is post-secondary to to help them be the best selves they can be.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't necessarily get to see that at that point in time. So we try to prepare them and give them the skill set so they can become their best selves down the road.
So speaking about becoming their best selves, I think, Dan, you and I have had this conversation that we don't necessarily focus on skills that take place interpersonally, right? A lot of times we're focusing on job skills and things like that. And so becoming your best self is not just the self that you are at work, but also the skills that you bring into your life. So why do you think it's important to teach personal finance as one of those skill sets?
Well, personal finance is something that we deal with every day, right?
Mhm.
So money is not only something that we need to do different transactions, but it also is very emotional at times because it's tied to so many different parts of our lives.
Mhm.
For students to have a good understanding of how money works and how when they borrow money, that's not their money. It's money they get to use for a little
Mhm.
bit. They have to end up paying it back. And that's the hard thing that like with student loans and credit cards and all these things, it's, having students that have, the skill set around being able to identify ways to properly manage those funds,
Mhm.
properly use those resources to their advantage. Um, but I don't want students to be, oh my gosh, now I have a credit card with a $5,000 credit limit. I can go do all these cool things. But that $5,000 quickly turns into 6,000, then 7,000, then 8,000 because of everything that's associated with that,
Mhm.
time, all of that. So to become their best selves and financially manage themselves, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I always
Yeah.
tell choose your hard, right? Because this could be hard to do this, but it's also going to be hard to do this. So,
And
uh,
which hard is the one that we want our students to face more of, right? Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm excited that we get the opportunity to have opportunities like this podcast, and to be able to connect with kids all over the country to talk about what really is important. Because as adults, we give advice all the time. Maybe
Yeah.
it goes in ear and out the other. But these opportunities of teaching these in classrooms and things like that helps it cement in kids a little bit.
Yeah. Imani, I want to get your thoughts. You said you embed personal finance wherever you can. So why do you think that that's such an important skill for you to be teaching your students?
Yeah, it'll kind of piggyback on what Dan was saying, it brought to mind emotional intelligence, right?
Mhm.
Self-awareness and self-engagement, other awareness and other engagement. And, like eventually, I tell my students, your parents, they love you, but they don't want you to be with them forever. Yeah. And so, in high school, we're really getting close to being adults. The boys literally come in as boys and leave with hair on their face and a lot larger, and so it's not a lot of time, right? Like I talk to my freshmen, I always lose track of time. I'm like 2027
Mhm.
will be here before you know it. So we have to just, become more and more aware of ourselves, what we want, what we like, what is it going to take to obtain those things and maintain those things, and and then manage your finances well, so you don't get
Yeah.
all of a sudden bucket of cold water dumped on you and you're on
A big
bajillions of
unpleasant
debt, right?
surprise.
Yeah, with debt that you didn't realize. Oh, I have to pay this back. What? When? So those kind of things.
So I wanted to kind of build on this in thinking about every state, I think, is starting to recognize the importance of teaching personal finance, but I know districts and schools and states are approaching it a little bit differently. Imani, tell us a little bit about how personal finance education looks in your classroom. You said you're embedding it where you can. What
Mhm.
does that end up looking like?
So, for a while, for quite some time, it's been the stock market game, and really it's just
Mm,
games, and more games, because that's how we can connect to the young people. And so, some they like way more than others, but they really do. Stock market game has been a staple for a long time, and just again, kind of introduction and awareness, and like as we're older, so we pay attention when we hear the news, like, oh, the S&P 500 is and like when I ask people, when you hear on the news, like the S&P is up or the Dow. It's like crickets, right? But so, but you know, as we progress through the game throughout the semester, then all of a sudden people are paying attention to these,
Yeah.
you know, things that they take for granted, like wearing Nikes or going to Target for Starbucks at Target, right? These type of things. And then definitely I've been embracing more recently, as of this school year, the next gen personal finance. And again, the kids, they love games. They love, like, Build Your Stacks is really hot. Yeah, it's one of the popular games on the platform. And,
Hmm.
and then just to see them get actively engaged with that, and then realize at the end of the game how it covers a 20-year period, and then you actually get to squeeze in a little history about, oh yeah, during this time, this is what happened,
Hmm.
and this is probably why your stacks got built the way they, oh, excuse me,
Hmm.
built the way that they were due to what was going on in the macro economy.
I like the idea of gamification. I think we'll touch a little bit more on that shortly. Dan, when you and I were chatting, you talked about how your state and district has kind of approached it a little bit differently as far as even going so far as to create a personal finance course. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I'm definitely blessed to be working in the state of Washington because the
Mm.
state of Washington state has started to recognize the importance of financial literacy. And recently there was a bill in our legislature to be able to provide this as a graduation requirement, something we're still working through. And just because, um, yes, every student that goes through schooling needs to have this type of course and access to financial literacy standards,
Mhm.
as we know, because of all the important things we've already stated. But Washington is taking the steps to hopefully make this a graduation requirement. Now, there's some complications with that, right? Like, how does it already fit into, the required graduation
Mhm.
requirement, all those kinds of things. But we're working through it, and we want to make sure that we provide these opportunities for students. Here in Lake Stevens, we have a very strong personal finance program through career and technical education. So we have, I want to say, 400 some odd kids going through personal finance every single year here at the high school, which has been outstandingly just like really great for kids. And we
Mhm.
get from alumni saying, hey, thank you for teaching me about this because now I'm able to do this. And that $100 that you told me to put away is now $250. And I was able to pay off my windshield crack, right? Those kinds of things. And it's like, maybe it seems small at first, but I mean, back in the day where you had to replace a windshield, $250 is a lot of money. But now you
Mhm.
have access to the fund because of the financial position. So it's all those kinds of things that are very important, and we're trying to weave it into as much as we can, not only through our personal finance courses, but all our CTE courses,
Yeah.
where students to access those standards and learn how to really use money.
So in thinking about this, one of the things that you and I talked about, Dan, is how we get students engaged and excited. And Imani kind of touched on this as well. If we talk about the S&P or the Dow, a lot of times it's just that's not something that they
Uh-oh.
Hannah, you want mute?
connect with her.
Sorry, Hannah, you want mute for a second? Are you there?
Oh,
Well, I know
might
it's
be on
not.
my end. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, you good.
Yeah, now okay.
There we go.
So essentially, what we're hands-on opportunities are always best, right? And we know that's not the only learning, but it is an opportunity for kids to really engage in that learning. Because if we just say, "Hey, here's how to use a credit card," and then say "go," that's not always going to work. So we need students to be able to have hands-on opportunities or inquiry-driven processes that really have them think about both sides of situations. And they're able to connect with others and hear different opinions and use data to make informed decisions. And not only hear about experiences from others, but be able to utilize that information to make better decisions for themselves. The game stuff is awesome. Stock market
Mhm.
game, the virtual business academy stuff that we can do. That's not only preparing kids to handle money, that's having them utilize computers, right? So now they have a bit of computer science background where they're able to navigate the use of Excel, Word, PowerPoint, all of these different things, which are
Mhm.
fundamental needs and in every industry. And so the more we can interweave all of these different concepts.
Imani, do you have any other thoughts or anything that you would want to build on that, increasing the relevancy of personal finance with your students?
Yeah, so one thing we do as we're playing the stock market game, for instance, that just kind of intertwines one of our main some of our main initiatives at our schools, speaking, writing, reading, listening,
Mm,
is I have them do what I call D3 analysis, data, discussion, decision, or D4, disposition and decision. So they'll create, a visually attractive slide deck, but so that's the style, but the substance of it is, some little bit of fundamental analysis on the stock that they chose and some technical analysis skill just from like basic
mm,
point and figure charting. And so as an individual on a team that has to decide how they're going to, use their funny money
mhm.
to buy or add to their portfolio, they have to advocate for that particular stock and see what their team says. So, it's kind of like a mixture of these skills
I was just
that you
going to say
need.
that's a lot of soft skills that we're building right there. There's communication and collaboration, but being able to present, being able to share that knowledge and pass it on to others. So I think there's a lot that goes into that project
Hmm.
alone.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or ideas?
And then, we do a career project. Understanding compensation is
Mm,
a key part of what you want to pursue. Not that that should be the number one thing. You need to be
mhm,
passionate and interested in the field, but understanding what you're getting into, even as far as college costs and how college year by year will increase in fees and
mhm,
tuition once you get there, right? And even just kind of predicting, what that would look like when you arrive, for your first year of college. And then the other day I told them when I started, my tuition was one amount, and when I ended, it was about 2.75 that amount. And now when you guys start, your tuition will be 0.25 or what the end amount was when I finished school, right? So, a little problem for them to think about the
mhm.
math involved. So, just, when you get, being observant of things that we can take advantage of,
Yeah,
have them think about
yeah.
things all the time.
Well, and Dan, this goes back to a conversation that you and I had about student loans, right? And I love, Imani, that you touched on this too, because if I am passionate about multiple career paths, knowing the financial end of things can also help me make decisions about the kind of life that I want to live, my expectations about who's able to pay for what, can I get grants and scholarships to supplement student loans, because there's a lot that goes into the decision to go into higher education. So I think that that's huge. Um, I wanted to dive in as well as we've talked about, ways to make it engaging and fun, but there's obviously some challenges that come with teaching personal finance. I know that it's a tough subject. To Dan's point earlier, money can be actually very emotional. So what are some of the challenges, Imani, that you're seeing as you teach personal finance in the classroom?
Mm. Just the realization of costs that
Hmm.
that's everything costs somebody something,
Hmm.
right? And fortunately, well, as young people, the adults were supposed to take care of them, right?
Hmm.
But eventually you transition from being taken care of to take care of yourself, and then hopefully being in a position to take care of your parents who took care of you, right? And so, uh, again, as young people, that awareness is not there quite yet, in the earlier adolescent stage, but eventually and I think the issue is too just a whole variety of backgrounds that like impact that awareness or the development of that awareness and
Hmm.
because you'll have some 13-year-olds who are like, wow, you know all that about derivatives and all this, right? Well, then while others are like, what is that? So and then just some of the habits, some of the you see from different kids coming in with every single day a venti Starbucks, like, or, had a student, he had a belt that was $300. I'm like, your waistline is gonna grow, guy. Hopefully he'll be able to get as much as you spent on that belt. Right. So
So being
again,
being smart, right? Making those long-term decisions. I think the foresight is one of those things that's hard to be able to teach. So being able to instill that vision, so important. Love
yeah.
that. Dan, you had some thoughts too about challenges that you've seen in Washington and Lake Stevens for teaching personal finance.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the backside of school, right, where we talk about, entering codes into our learning management system, and then does this course qualify for a college entrance requirement? Does it, does it align to an Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, whatever type class? So there's those kind of back
Mm,
end challenges, but the challenges that we're seeing kind of more in the classroom is first of all, access. We don't have 400 personal finance teachers, so we can't
mhm,
provide this to every single student that's going through our school system. So that's a big challenge. And I would say other challenges are sometimes relevancy. And the reason why I say that is because some kids don't get a paycheck, right? Some kids don't get an allowance. So then when we're talking about saving money, they're like, well, why are we talking about this now?
mhm,
For those kids that do have jobs and have an allowance or whatever income they do have, it's about setting them up to make those better decisions around money that they do receive. One thing that I've always learned, and something that we've stressed in like our personal finance courses, is just the tips and tricks
mm,
around, saving or things like that. Like for example, always keeping $100 in your account, but that just marks you a zero. So you always have $100 as just to catch balance if you needed
mhm.
to. But I remember when I was a kid and just started off in my brand new job and I got that paycheck for 350 something dollars. $350 went out the door faster than I could even imagine, right? Just because I never thought about, oh, I'm going to save $100 and whatever. Uh, I just went through it so quickly. But if I were to take that now and that same concept as an adult, which I have a bigger paycheck than the $350, but me save for a home that can help me prepare for
Yeah.
family, that can help me, taxes, all of the things that we face that are actually huge financial burdens for us, but we can be a little bit more prepared. And so I think, the relevancy component of it for students is it may not be right now, but it's going to be in the next, 2 years, the next 4 years, where the stuff that we're talking about today is really going to make a huge impact. Hannah, you're back. I can see you moving. Hannah is a little bit frozen.
Oh, there we go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
There we
Froze
go.
for a second.
Okay. Sorry, it cut out right in the middle and I was so excited, Dan, about what you were sharing. I love that there's different barriers, but I think when we kind of reframe that, there's so many different opportunities that come along with that, right? There's barriers that come with teaching personal finance, but it's such an importance.
Oh no, she's gone.
Uh-oh.
I'm happy
Then
to,
what do we do?
yeah, I'm happy to facilitate the rest of it just because I know I have some of the questions in front of me. And so I
Okay.
know it's a really important opportunity for us to be talking about financial literacy and the opportunities that are available to kids. Um, and so I guess I'll kind of start with advice that I have for folks in education and how they're kind of integrating with kids and how do we empower students to be more financially savvy. It's tough, right? Because every situation is going to be different. Uh, and so Hannah is back, and Hannah, I was just
Hey.
for you, but
I
I
should have you guys could hold down the fort without me. I could have dropped off this call a long time ago. Thank you. Sorry about that. I'm having some technical difficulties today. I did just want to come back and loop it in with kind of one final question for Dan and Imani before we go over to Jillian. For our educators, right, who may be listening, who haven't been able to teach personal finance or who are just getting started, what advice would you share with them about empowering students with personal finance skills? So Imani, will come to you first.
Yeah, just maybe echo what you said before. Let's try some games. This will activate the interest. Because personal finance and finance in general you know, if we look back over our lives, we get it now, but the beginning, not quite so, right? Not, and again, if we have parents that kind of instilled in us in an earlier age, like my dad,
Mhm.
he passed down to us, he'd always say, well, my dad, he forgave us, you know, my dad would, you know, he's 80 plus now. So if he'd say, if he'd, granddad would say, if I give you a quarter, you better save a dime. And so this was just operating system, right?
Yeah.
And from generation to generation, you know, so maybe even the idea of connecting culturally with people to understand like what's in their heritage that in terms of financial management and what, all and some could stand maybe, you know, some tweaking or correction from that heritage and maybe not, right? So there's always, you know, there's pluses and minuses and from different things that could pass on through generations, right? So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Looking outside the classroom, right? Because education doesn't just happen with the students in class. I think that's very wise. Dan, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I would just say try to make it as relevant as possible.
Hmm.
I think one really cool project that I've seen is that you kind of start kids with a bank account. It's a fake bank account, but then you have to have them do certain things with those funds. They get to invest those funds. They get to spend them on different lavish items if they want to. But it's up to them, and then it's kind of a game throughout the semester or even throughout the year around who comes out more financially savvy, who has
Hmm.
more change in their back pocket. And while that's a fun competition to play in class, it's very real, right? Where if we were to think about it and we were to be financially savvy ourselves and put away that $100 every month or that whatever that denomination is, it's just going to help us be better off in the future. And so making those things relevant to kids now, giving them ways to critically think about the ways to use their money rather than just kind of putting a worksheet in front of them. Really engage in the inquiry that's associated with all of this learning. That's the best thing we can do, the best thing to empower our students.
That's beautiful.
And again, I believe
Well,
that
oh, here she is. She's back.
She's just keeping us on our toes.
I just really want to see what you guys do without me. Really, it's what it comes down to. Sorry, I just turned off my video so that hopefully that'll help a little bit. We're just having all sorts of technical issues today. Anyway, Jan, I just wanted to thank you and Imani for those thoughts. I think that that is incredibly powerful and so helpful. Jillian, now this is kind of Intuit's time to shine. I wanted to give you a chance to share some resources available from Intuit for helping teach personal finance. So we'll go pass it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. And Imani, I think there's a question for you in the Q&A if you can see it.
Oh,
with
okay.
4Ds.
Let me see here. Q&A.
Alrighty.
Oh, would you repeat the 4Ds? Yes. Data, discussion, disposition, and decision. Oh, I guess I could
Perfect.
type the answer. I'll type it in.
Alrighty. Can everyone see my screen okay? What's cooking over here at Intuit for Education?
Looks great, Jillian.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to start my timer because I want to make sure I'm on track. All right. So thanks, everyone. My name is Jillian Moskowitz. I am here from Intuit for Education. So if you've never heard about us, awesome. I'm going to tell you all about us. And if you have heard, great. We want to hear from you and we want to give you a sneak peek about what's coming. So my name, I already said it, Jillian. I'm the Senior Curriculum Content Manager here. I also, my colleague David Cook is here as well. I don't know how to, I'm shouting you out. I don't know how to see you, but thank you for being here. We are have been leading the content development for Intuit for Education, which I am going to dive into. So hopefully everyone's heard of Intuit. We've been around for over 40 years. We are a fintech company. And what Intuit for Education really focuses on is how can we help students become the first financially literate generation. And what we've been hearing, and we know and we experience is it's really hard to talk about this and learn about this. And it's not something that's talked about or learned about equitably across the country and in schools and in households. So Intuit for Education was created to take Intuit's experience and leverage our technology to really think of how can we create a program to help students become financially literate and grow their confidence. So Such was born Intuit for Education. We launched this past September, so we're not even a year old yet. We launched with 2 courses, a personal finance course and an entrepreneurial finance course. The way we think about it is one is, focused on becoming financially literate, and one is what students need when they're starting a small business or their side hustle, whatever it might be, to really make sure they have the tools they need. I'll go back here for 1 second, actually. So our curriculum, even though it's divided into 2 courses, we also provide different ways to teach the content. So I'm going to dive into that in just a second. We want to make sure this curriculum is as flexible and engaging as possible so that any educator and any student can find what they need to learn what they want to learn about as it relates to personal finance and entrepreneurial finance. So that's our goal. That's our mission. Now I'm going to dive into how we do that. So one way that this curriculum and content can be accessed is self-paced, also known as asynchronous. I know everyone has their own terminology for these, but essentially what this curriculum does is educators can assign it to students to go and learn on their own. So as long as they have their own internet, their own devices, they can go and go through the curriculum at their own leisure. You'll see we have a lot of different media in the curriculum. We have videos, we have simulations, we have reflections, quizzes, there's live feedback. There's also a robust way for educators to see how their students are performing. So I'll dive into that a little bit. On the right, you can kind of see pre-recorded, kind of playing around in the product. But it has real-world tools where the students can play around and learn about tools that help them learn finance and manage their finances. The curriculum is flexible and it's very, very interactive. And I forgot to mention, everything is completely free and will always be free. Intuit for Education will never come at a cost. It was really important to us that this was about spreading education and awareness rather than making a profit. So this is a glimpse into our self-paced curriculum and the portal. We have over 12 different units. Each of these units have different lessons within them. And again, each lesson is made up of videos and reflections and quizzes that educators can assign to their students and watch them learn. So that's our self-paced. The other part of the other way to deliver the curriculum is what we call guided. So that's for the educator that wants to stand up in front of the classroom and teach their students. So this has your more traditional, and everything comes off the shelf. So it has your lesson plans, your PowerPoints, worksheets, answer keys, exit tickets, bell ringers. We've really developed this so that educators don't have to do the heavy lifting. And we also know that educators want to put their spice on it and they want to adapt it to fit their students, their teaching style, what they're trying to do. So everything can be accessed it can be downloaded, and it's all in Word, PowerPoint. So educators can go pick and choose and change whatever they want within the lesson plans and the slide decks and the worksheets. We give you too much so you can use it as it is, or you can scale back to fit your needs. One other thing I'll mention about both guided and self-paced is they're all aligned to the National Personal Finance standards that were created by Jumpstart and CEE, and we're also aligning them to state-specific standards as well to make it even easier for educators who are like, I know what my state standards are, give me curriculum, or educators that are like, I didn't even know we had state standards, like, teach me. So really exciting stuff to come. On that note, it's like I set myself up for that. We are always, always, always evolving. We want to get better. We want to make sure our curriculum is stronger by the day. And that's why we're always looking for feedback from educators to say, this is working, this isn't working. Can you do this? Can you do that? So side note, shameless plug, if you have feedback, you're going to have my email at the end. Please send it to us. We want to hear what's working. You are all the experts. You're in the classrooms. We're trying to get in the classrooms to watch, but we want to hear from you and your students about what you like and what you don't like. So this is a sneak peek, hot off the press. Wish I could do math better. In about 6 weeks, we're going to have a whole new browsing experience that's going to make the curriculum even more flexible and exciting for educators to pick and choose what they want. So I begged our development team. Can you guys still see the screen? Oh no, it stopped here. Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So this is what our new portal is going to look like. You're going to see it's like you can filter down by what you're looking for. So whether you're looking for a whole class or a whole course, or you're just looking for a real world simulation or a calculator or a game, you can filter in. You can see we still have our courses. They're divided by self-paced or guided. When you click in, let's go to credit. You're going to see I'm going to click into the basics of credit. It's going to outline all the resources really easily. So there's going to be lesson plans, slide decks, activities, so worksheets with answer keys that already come ready for you to take off the shelf and utilize. We have homework assignments. We have end of unit assessments in Google Form. Again, everything is created so you can take it and either use it or take it and use what you want, right? Like no educator teaches the same way, classes change, students change. So we really want to continue to make this flexible and meet your needs. You'll see what the learning objectives are and then what national standards. The sneak peek that's coming is that there will be state standards, and we also have a soon to be hot off the press study course for those who want to get ready to prepare to take the personal finance certification that Certiport offers. So really fun and exciting things coming over the next couple of weeks. I'm gonna go back. Great, I'm still back on the slide. Nope, we already did that. Let me click over. We have an awesome educator community. Amani, shout out to you. I know you're in it. I think we reached out to May. So if you want to join, and Dan, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're in it, but if you're not, please join. It's a great educator community where you can expand your network, get first dibs at our resources, see what's coming, build your knowledge. You can find out about it on our website, which I'm sure we can share out after. If you haven't heard, we have this awesome Hour of Finance coming up in April. It's a nationwide challenge that schools can sign up for, and there's some pretty rad prizes involved. So it's 1 hour of learning personal finance, and it's combined with our Prosperity Quest game, which teaches students using real world scenarios how to navigate the world of credit and finances. So if you want to sign up for that, again, you can email me. We'll send out these notes, all that good stuff, so you can get your school and students involved. And then finally, that's my email. Would love to hear from you. Happy to answer any questions. And just wanted to say thank you for what you guys are doing to teach personal finance, to help the next generation of students really understand how to be confident, how to manage their money, and how to make sure that they are achieving their dreams. So we know it's not easy. So I think I was just in 10 minutes. So sorry if I was speaking too fast, but.
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much, Jillian. And I'm actually trying here to see if we can get one of our guests from our Certiport team to be able to share some information, but it looks like it's no surprise giving me a little bit of technical issues today. So we may have to share that information afterward. Kath from our Certiport product management team has a few slides prepared about the Intuit Personal Finance certification. So Kath, if you're able to speak, go ahead. But if not, we can go ahead and share your slides after. So just let me know. Looks like it's giving me the same error message. So we'll go ahead then. It looks like we have just a couple minutes left. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop into the chat. I just have a couple quick things that I wanted to go through before we end today. And we'll give Kath just hopefully a couple minutes. So I wanted to call out, of course, that the Intuit Personal Finance certification is part of our Certified Academy program, and particularly the boot camp. So if you have questions about the certification or questions about the curriculum that Jillian has highlighted today, we would encourage you to email us at certifiedacademy@pearson.com, and we can get you access to these resources, talk you through what a lot of these things look like so that you can try them out in your own time before you offer them to your students, which is, of course, one of the things that teachers want to do most often. The other thing I wanted to call out is that we have this series of webinars and another series of webinars coming in the next quarter. It's all a great build up to our certified educator conference happening in Orlando in June 17th through the 19th. So we would love to be able to have everyone on this call attend our conference here this summer. So if you need information about that, you can go to certified.certiport.com, and then we can give you some more information about the sessions that are coming. It's a great opportunity to network with other educators who are teaching personal finance or other courses in the CTE space. So we would love to have you there. Looks like we're still having issues, so we'll make sure to send out, Kath, your information about the certification exam via email afterwards, along with the recording for this session. So thank you to our incredible panelists and presenters, Dan, Imani, and Jillian, for all the information that you've shared today. Thank you, everyone, for your patience while we ran into some technical difficulties as well. But we're just grateful that you spent some time learning with us. This is such an important topic, and we want to make sure that we empower the next generation of students with these skills. So if you have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that we'll be sending out later with the full recording, and we'll make sure to follow up with you. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon. We'll talk to you soon.